To read and review the minutes of the July 13th, 2017 Zoning Advisory Board meeting. And if so, do I have a motion to either amend or approve?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The record reflects it is unanimous to approve the minutes. Quick review of the policy and procedure. Agenda items are introduced in alphabetical order. The report of the legal organ publications on agenda items, signs posted on proposed properties, notification evidence to adjoining property owners by the city administrator or designee shall be provided. Applicant may make a presentation and may be questioned by the Zoning Advisory Board. Comments from the general public are allowed if they have filed disclosure notices 5 days before hearing per Title 36, Chapter 67A of the Official Code of Georgia annotated. Each person speaking shall first provide their name and address so we can make sure we get it in the minutes. Applicant may rebut negative comments. A maximum time limit of 10 minutes for each side shall be set by the chairman. Let me ask first if everyone has the standards governing the exercise of zoning power included in their manual for reference.
Yes.
All right. And do any of the members of the Zoning Advisory Board today have an ownership interest or any other pecuniary interest in any agenda items that may need filing for proper disclosure today?
No.
That being said, we have one item on the agenda for consideration. That is a building setback variance of 15 feet to reduce the minimum distance from 30 feet to 15 feet at location known as GC 56-229 at Irwin Street and South Wall Street by Lidl U.S. Operations, LLC. Let me first ask Mr. Worley, have all the ads been run, signs been posted, notifications to adjoining landowners been provided?
Yes, sir, they have.
All right, was there a meeting of the Zoning Review Committee?
Yes, sir.
What did the Zoning Review Committee say?
Zoning Review Committee met on August 3rd to review this agenda item. I'll review those minutes quickly. Don McGinnis stated the applicant is requesting a 15-foot setback variance to construct a 35,000 square foot grocery store on approximately 3.95 acres. The required building setback in the zoning ordinance for C2 zone property is 30 feet as listed in section 7.9.9. The variance request will affect the building setbacks on the north side Irwin Street frontage. The applicant states that the size of the property and the site development to meet storm drainage requirements is the reason for the variance request. The street department had no issues to report. The police department report states that the area around Highway 41 and Highway 53 intersection has a relatively high number of accidents. If passed, this annexation would generate more traffic than the current roadway system can safely and efficiently accommodate. Entry and exit directly from or directly to Highway 53 could be a safety issue. Additional signage and or traffic control devices will be required. The fire department had no issues to report. Electric report showed that the property is currently served by Calhoun Utilities, and the water and sewer construction report stated that this area is served by a 6-inch water line and an 8-inch water line along South Wall Street, and the area is served by an 8-inch sewer main running along the eastern side of the property.
All right, and just to clarify, Mr. Worley, what you were reading in the minutes, the property has already been annexed and zoned. Is that correct, where the police department said if annexed?
That's true. That must have been the comment from the last month's, okay. But it still stands for this item as well. All right,
that being the results of the Zoning Review Committee, let me first ask if anybody is present on behalf of the applicant.
Yes, sir, I am.
If you would state your name and your address for the record.
Terry Brumlow, 1287 Curtis Parkway, Calhoun, Georgia, and law firm Brumlow, Pullman, and Lashman.
All right, what would you like to tell the Zoning Advisory Board?
Well, I mentioned this earlier when we did the actual annexation, and I'm here on behalf of Lidl, a European grocer that looks to expand in this area. They've opened several stores and would love to open one here. And I mentioned this just briefly, so I'll go over it again because I'm not sure that the entire panel was here at that time. They want to be in a good spot, and of course there are a few good spots left. If you look up and down, I mean, we've got most of our grocery stores over there on that side of town. You got Kroger and Aldi and Ingles, so it's a good spot. It's a good area for that, and obviously an area that lends itself to this type of use. But they were limited in what property they could purchase. Not to get too deep into it, but basically Lidl is working through an individual named Travis Butler, who has the property tied up. It's actually owned by a limited partnership, which is types of uses that they have. And to be able to make that fit, we couldn't do it within the 30-foot setback line, so we needed to ask for the 15-foot variance to be able to get this in. It being a commercial area, we felt like that was reasonable in this situation, because with the drainage issues, with the amount of land that Mr. Butler was willing to sell them, we felt like this would work. And if you don't have a plan, again, I'll get one out and you can see it. It looks like Mr. Butler has one. And
Yeah.
so you can probably see the way this thing has to fit in there is about the only way that they can do it. They've had a very reputable firm, Wolverton, that's put all this together and try to make this fit on there. So they really want to be a part of the community. I'm kind of excited. I've done a little more research about them since I've gotten involved, and they're basically somewhere better than an Aldi and probably closer to a Kroger as far as what we're used to seeing. So I think it would be a boon to the citizens of the city and really for all of Gordon County to have this extra advantage, a different place to go to be able to get their groceries and things of that nature. And we're asking for that variance based on the application that I submitted to that. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you can.
Actually, my question for Don. Don, the setback is only with regards to the line adjacent to Irwin Street, is that correct?
Yeah.
Not any of the budding properties to the east or the west?
No, so it's just where the buildings are on Irving Street.
Okay.
Even the parking, we let people park up to the right of way, so that's no issue. It's just where the building is.
Okay. Do any of the members of the zoning advisory board have any questions of the applicant?
The reason for the size of the lot, or what's the runoff and the stormwater retention? How does that play?
That factors into the master plan that Mr. Butler has, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really have access to all that information. I think he's addressed some members of the city council and spoken with some of the other folks in the city hall. And I don't know his total plans, but basically for him to be able to do the stormwater runoff the way he needs to do it to comply with all the codes and things that are in place this time, this is the most he could sell to them to be able to retain enough to be able to have that stormwater back there. So, I mean, obviously they would have liked to have purchased more and not have to be able to do this, but they were very limited and very specific as to what legal could purchase. So I'm not trying to dodge your question, it's just kind of outside what I know. I don't know.
Their engineer would have to size it for the whole area to get their stormwater to go to the detention, and that'll be done when they do their engineering and prior to submitting the plans on the storm erosion plans and all that. So all that'll be done.
Well, I mean, it's currently, and correct me if I'm wrong, Don, and Terry, it's for a broader development of which Lidl is going to be purchasing the property from Butler Development.
Correct, yes,
Yeah.
Lidl's going to purchase, and then Mr. Butler has plans, which I'm not privy to, for the remainder of the tract. It's an almost 18-acre, it was a county island, because I think the city was excited to get that because it basically was county property right there, surrounded pretty much by city property. So I think it was a boon to get it all in, and then he wants to move forward with that and with the development.
So the water retention is the main reason that he has to have this, and they couldn't buy more.
Right, that's correct. He needed to retain enough to make sure he could do the drainage and
For the others.
stormwater runoff for the others that he has
Okay.
plans for.
And if you all recall from the last meeting, this is a larger planned development. But if you look at the conceptual site plan by Wolverton 9.1, that's the colored one that shows the Lidl placement, there is an indication of a shared stormwater detention area by developer because the two out parcels that would be directly adjacent to Wall Street will be developed. There'll have to be and all that new surface area or impervious surface area and roads are part of the Travis development plan, which my understanding is Lidl would not be purchasing until that site has been prepped.
Correct.
But you represent Lidl, not the Butler Group.
And their developers would have to submit a plan to fit this plan. But we could be dealing with 3 or 4 different engineering firms down the road.
We do have opposition, all right?
Yes, so as soon as y'all are done with Mr. Brumlow, then I will.
I'm done with you, Gary.
Anybody have any other questions, Mr. Brumlow? All right, that being said, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the variance request? Step forward and announce your name and your address.
Rodney Mathis, my address is 155 Wexford Drive here in Calhoun.
Okay.
My brother and I, as trustees for my brother, own adjacent property on 117 Irwin Street. Now, I take issue with several points, and one is there is other land available. They're just choosing to go backwards rather than forward on that plot there. I don't know all Butler's plans. As part of our frustration in trying to deal with Butler, they haven't been very forthcoming with us. So I'm learning a lot today. If that variance is granted, we think it hurts our tracks marketability and the other two tracks there as well, which we're about 1.5 acres. So the visibility up and down that street is a concern.
Actually, Rodney, let me make an offer to you. I don't know if you've.
I have seen it.
Have you seen that development plan? And if you wanted to use that as a reference for the zoning advisory board as to which parcels?
It didn't have the color. My property, my parents' property, is the first piece of property right here, adjacent to that red line in your packet.
So it'd be directly adjacent.
117. From this, you will see a couple of dumpsters, a one-way arrow in, and a loading dock. We're concerned about the visibility and the marketability issues, but also if the potential hazard of people pulling in and out, you've got a wall there. So I don't know if that's been studied. I don't know if there's engineers who care to study that. But as far as my piece of property is concerned, there's going to be a wall we're going to have to pull up and try to pull in and out around. Again, we have tried to communicate with Butler quite a while ago, and that fell through. And so they could probably answer a lot of questions, but they haven't been able to do that. There are 3 tracks here. Basically, what we feel is we're hemmed in, and they have storm water right behind our property and a wall right beside our property with dumpsters. They have a one-way, we'll have an opposite way, but we don't think they need it, and they've got 18 acres there to go there 15 feet. So we don't think it increases the marketability of those 3 or 4 other tracks up the road at all. At least it raises great questions with traffic and what it does to these. If we have a stormwater retention pond in our backyard, these other lots will never develop. And so what Mr. Butler has effectively done is leave a back alley with a mosquito pit. And that's not going to help anybody on Peter Street. It's not going to help anybody on Irwin Street. Again, he could be here to answer those questions, but they haven't been here for 1.5 years and we've attempted to communicate with them.
I'll just make sure that to reflect on the minutes right now, it's Lidl who's asking for the variance, not the Butler Group. So
they have some sort of symbiotic relationship, and I think that there is more concert and action between the 2 entities.
oh, I'm not going one way or the other way. I'm just saying that the reason
Just say they know what each other do.
the reason they're not specifically here, though, is because they're not the applicant today. That being said, the city is familiar with the project.
We are not in the city at this point in time. That's something we hope to do soon. That property had been rented out till just a couple of years ago. We had some health issues in the family. I think we have a tree issue on there. So we're going to take some action on it at some point. You know, if we try to put signage out there, just to say we've got this type of business or we've got this kind of office, if they move that to 15 feet, that's impaired. In and out access is impaired. And the other issue is on the map that I looked at here, the big map, it says something about widening of road. I don't know where that stands. I don't know what that issue is. But if the road is widened, you go from 15 feet to potentially another 6 or 7 feet less. And again, that just creates a lot of issues that are not answered.
I will tell you that you corrected if I'm wrong, and I'll refer to Don McGinnis here, but there is a larger overall comprehensive plan for the city on redeveloping Irwin Street, but it doesn't even belong to us yet, does it? It's part of that, once we finish the Peter Street project, then probably redoing Irwin as part of that group, but we're nowhere near even a conceptual phase for that right
I
now.
was concerned with the Berlin wall being built down Irwin Street. And as I looked at it, it's not, I thought it was from the car wash all the way down. It's not that far, but still you have a walled up alley section there.
I think the car wash built on the right of way. Yeah, on their parking is, parking and.
But I did note that as an issue that needs to be answered, is if the road is wide and they have a variance, you're not talking about 15 feet, you're talking about less than 15 feet.
No, let's do, let's say 15 feet out. The right of way, the right of way is not going to change.
If they build the building before you widen the road,
Well, we would have to purchase the land before we could widen the road, or the county would acquire more right of way.
that's exactly my point. If you grant a 15-foot variance, if they build a building 15 foot away, then you widen the road, you have a 5-foot setback, or 10-foot setback.
What is the road right away right now, do we know? 50.
So they wouldn't be purchasing no land.
How much is Peters? Isn't Peters 50 essentially? Okay.
So, that's our assessment of it. Appreciate your consideration. We have a lot of questions, and we don't think it's right to grant this variance at this time. Just going through your checklist, I don't see why this is special. Not at this point in time, when they are partners and they have that other property available to them. Any questions?
You said the Butler Group did not respond to any of your,
We had dealings with this Butler Group over a year ago, and then for the past half year, we haven't heard anything from them.
Have you contacted them?
No.
Oh, okay.
And legal, I did not know who legal was. Ms. Brumwell made that clear. They're a separate entity to some extent, but they are working together through this whatever proposal they have. My understanding was all the other parcels up at that street were available for sale at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and they made the decision that they didn't want to go that route.
What do you mean all the other parcels?
They're three adjacent. I think we're.
Going up Irwin, you talking about?
Yes, going out there. Now, I would point out, you know, they have that drawing on there, that retention area.
Mhm.
I don't know where that retention area is going to be. And so that's where we have those concerns. We've got walls, one-way streets, and a little retention pond right behind our property, so we think it impairs it considerably.
Where is the one-way street?
right here.
There's an arrow, and that's what it suggests is a one-way street in and in. which is
Okay, it
what my-
isn't yet, it's
Which is
just,
what my concern is, was pulling in and out with that ingress and egress along that strip. And if they're pulling in big trucks to load, which is what that appears to be, a loading dock, you're gonna have big trucks in and out that's there.
Hey, I think that's the setback line originally. The road,
What's that? The arrow.
the arrow, that's the 30 feet from the property line. It's all,
Oh, you think that's what that is?
Because, you know, they ain't gonna build a 30-foot wide paved road for just a one way. So they don't pull in trucks here.
I just see this honestly as a group that's, gonna ask for whatever they get. And I think they have the property there to do what they wanna do without paying hours.
But they are gonna use that, both of these bars in and out both ways. I remember the first meeting we had with them when it got there.
Irwin Street would be, is that what you mean? It's not gonna be a one-way?
Both sides of the building, both their driveways.
Oh, okay.
Both in and out.
so Irwin won't be a one-way. This was just the driveway. That will be a one-way,
No,
correct?
the driveway's not a one-way. That.
The entrance
driveway
is a one.
marking to
That was the question I had, whether it was one way or not for looking at it.
Yeah.
Talking about this little arrow that's down here by the loading dock?
I think it's just never to highlight the
the,
building.
it's a little confusing.
Because if you were gonna mark that as a one-way, you'd put the
This
arrow.
is marking this. It ain't really marking the in and out. But, you know, they're 30 feet wide. Ain't nobody gonna build a 30-foot wide street just to have one way in and one way out.
And when I make my comments,
And see,
that
if the building's
conversation
sitting
had to
here,
recall.
and they're guessing that they might widen it to this point right here. but, you know, you could still
Widen the
pull up
road.
to here and be able to see the curves.
And then right here is where I see.
This is your 15-foot setback right here.
Okay. And what is this line right here, this dark gray?
That is maybe down the road, they'll widen it to 24 feet.
That's
just
the right of way. right
No.
of-
No, that's.
This
it's
is the
wide.
right.
The right of way is right here, right now.
Okay.
I know here. I'll move because I
You're
can
fine,
see.
you're fine. Now, where's the wall that runs?
Well,
It's just a.
There's not gonna be no wall.
He's talking about the
There's no
building
wall. There's no wall
itself.
between
No.
your property and that.
It's the
Well-
building itself.
Well, there will
There
have,
will be.
because it's C2 abutting residential, it
They'll
will
have to
be.
put a 6-foot wall or something, and that can go right to the right of way, or it's gotta be 6 foot high to hide the.
But that is Tony, to answer, that is required under our zoning ordinance for any time C2 abuts R1.
And the grocery store knows.
I know, so I'm over.
You're gonna be blocked one way or the other. Follow me?
Yes, that's what I
Because
don't
we don't have a
appreciate.
setback on the fence.
The other thing right here is it does say 24-foot road to be widened. And so this line here, which is currently your 30 feet, well, you're saying it would go back from that point. But there's question with the widening of the road.
Here, you could just get
Well,
them to
it's a-
buy
it's a
that
county
lot.
road.
There
We
wouldn't
don't
be any
know.
problem.
It could be 20 years before that road gets widened, if it ever.
Maybe 20 years.
May get improved.
I was gonna say, maybe 20 years before we finish Peters. So, you know.
Yeah, the route it's at, rate it's going
So,
anyway.
we don't know.
But they could do trees or something there instead of a wall, but they
It ain't
still
a
couldn't
wall, it's the
see.
building itself.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but you're saying the buffer.
Well, yeah, they could plant trees, whatever they want to do.
They don't have to do
No, our
anything,
ordinance
or they
lets you do either
could,
one.
yeah.
This buffer here right now is a 6-foot wall, correct?
Or it can be vegetative.
No, it'll be a fence.
Yeah, it could be just
And if they want to spend the money to build the walls, yeah, it could be a,
Do you know the extent of this stormwater detention area?
just tiny,
Is
because
it
I don't have the land.
is it going to meet these dimensions, or is it going to take some other configuration?
It'll have to, the engineer's got to show us that. It's got to make the state law.
Yeah, but it could change as far as configuration and dimensions, correct?
Well, and that's,
Get it in and run the numbers, sure.
and that's where the property development has changed. Originally, back in that area was supposed to be more retail. This was originally a much larger project when it was first proposed. No, out in the back, right, Don?
And the question I have is,
That's what I
why
thought it
can't
was
the
supposed to be the
15
back
feet be
part to
taken
start
this
with.
direction? Or this section be taken in for parking? Why is this 15?
Between the owners and the buyer. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Well, it does have something to do with maybe. And so we feel that this is some collusion between these groups for their benefit, and it's not fair. And it's going to impede those other pieces of property on that street. And what could be something that is a nice improvement for our community is going to be going piecemeal and have a detrimental long-term impact.
Do y'all remember a few months back, or maybe it was almost a year, there was a situation on Calhoun Street? Would we be able to pull that information?
Well, it was,
Storage building.
shoot, what's his name? He was gonna put storage building in one of the 5 feet.
Yeah, but he wanted to go 5 feet right up to the right of way.
Yeah, he
I
wanted-
mean, he basically
I
wanted,
think y'all offered him 10.
Yeah.
he wanted to build a concrete construction right up against, so that if we expand, then we'd have to end up tearing it down.
Yeah. Would have been no room left at all. Do anything.
This is still leaving 15 feet, it's just knocking out 15 feet.
Well, it'd be 15 feet off the right of way.
That's a lot of room.
Well, we got the
And it's-
buildings a little lot closer. to
Yeah,
that.
it's a
I
lot
mean,
of room. I
it's-
walked it off today. That's still a good bit of room, 15 feet off.
So I think, Rodney, you're concerned though, is if they do widen the road, we still have to abide by the 15 feet. Is that correct? So that 15 feet would
Unless
never.
somebody purchases more right of way from these people and these people and these people here, I mean, unless they go to the other side of the street and buy more right of way, it just depends on what the government wants to do.
And
County or
if
city.
Kevin McIntyre were here, and Paul and I can both account to this, when you start talking about redoing Irwin, there'll be several different plans. I mean, during Peters, there were lots that were going to be taken from and then suddenly not taken from. You know, we went round, all pun intended, round and round about the roundabout. You know, so.
You still have this wall issue being 30 feet down versus 15 feet down.
What, right here? It's a 20-foot buffer.
And like I said,
And they can
Now,
put that.
if I understand Rodney, he's talking about the separation wall that's required between R1 and C2. He's saying that it would go all the way down to 15 feet from the road as opposed, or 30 feet to the right of way.
It's not,
If it's a fence now, George, it can go all the way to the right.
No, that's what I'm just making sure y'all are both on the same page.
that's a wall.
so it's just a buffer, it's not a wall, right?
No, it's a wall. Anytime there's a C2 that abuts R1, there has to be a 6-foot wall separating the two properties.
Or fence or planted, whatever.
Like where we are, we've got trees. that are-
Privacy.
It's a buffer.
There has to, well, no, buffer's different. There has to be a walled off structure, whether that be by vegetation, a plank fence, you know, there has to be some way. The buffer's a different thing altogether. It's this would be right on the property line even.
It's vegetation, is what
Yeah,
it is.
but what I'm saying is that we want to make sure the buffer still has to be there between that and the C2 building.
Okay, so there would be a buffer between the wall and his property?
No, the wall would be right on the property line, but
His property, okay.
the building would still have, the C2, a building on C2 would still have to have a buffer from the wall to its building.
Best I can remember, I'd have to read it again, that question, George. It's an undisturbed buffer between commercial and residential. If that's woods right in there, they can't get in there and disturb it.
I just remember
Unless
one
it's
time.
approved by me, and it's gotta be approved by me before they can take that out
To give you
for stormwater issues.
To give you an example, go to Zaxby's, look in the back of the Zaxby's parking lot, you'll see there's a fence. That's because that being C2 abuts R1, therefore Zaxby's development was required to build a fence at the end of the property line of 6 feet high between it to separate it from,
Block it out.
Well, I was thinking when Flipper bought that over on Curtis Parkway, and the Gobles were fussing, not the Gobles, the Helen Hicks was fussing about the buffer. You said it could stay like it was, he didn't have to build anything?
It's probably undisturbed.
Well, it was.
Well, if it's undisturbed, you don't have to do anything, if you can't see through it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a blind.
Okay.
see, in other words, if you got 20 feet of vegetation like out at the hospital when they
Yeah,
were moving
okay.
with the walking trail and everything, there was a 20-foot wooded area that kept it from
Okay,
having to be
yeah.
walled. But in this case, assuming all vegetation is removed, like at Zaxby's for their parking and everything, you have to have a 6-foot barrier.
Okay, understand that now.
Spent way too much time studying that this week.
Parking
Thanks.
space requirement.
3.5 per 1,000 square foot of floor area.
So is that 164, is that, and if you moved it this way, you'd lose 17 spaces. And would that be under the?
I'd have to run the numbers.
You've got all this down here. You know what all this is?
And it's what is public right this moment, or pseudo-public. Lidl is going to be a separate entity from the rest of the development, correct?
That's correct.
I mean, the fact that the developer's buying the entire tract of land, eventually Lidl will own its own property. So when you say move over that line, that's where Lidl runs into a problem, because Lidl's not under any contract or obligation to buy beyond that line, because that's where they're already locked in at, in that deal.
And that's the reason they need the variance, because.
Because they can't go
They can't
that
go any
way.
other way. Okay.
He's not willing to sell them any more property. I'll state my place, that just from my conversations, this is an arm's length transaction between Mr. Butler and Legal. They're not together.
Without going into any confidence of privilege and other things of my aspect of the city attorney, I will confirm what Mr. Brumlow is saying. Once Lidl goes in, they're a completely independent operator from the rest of the development.
Well, it all started out that way, and they approached everybody. Butler did it on behalf, and then, like I said, the communication ceased.
Well, we've had some additional information, it's probably the last time you talked to him, but particularly talking with Terry, Lidl will be Lidl's its own independent entity and property owner once the project's finished. They are, in other words, they are not an anchor tenant to a larger development.
Correct. They don't have any plans to do anything else. They're not.
The Germans don't play that way. They get the land, they take the land. They don't give it back. And that was not going out on YouTube. But,
Are you sure?
There with you. I think this is approximately 1.5 acres right here. We're probably talking about 1/4 acre right here. Butler bundled and did whatever they chose to do.
Lidl is actually the transaction purchaser for the car wash, though.
Correct.
That's the only part of land that Lidl itself is purchasing.
That was not what was done in your variance for the rezoning.
Michael
The
property.
rezoning was this whole 18 acres
We
back
did
here.
both.
Well, we did both at the same time, but Lidl is actually purchasing outright the car wash.
And that's 1/4 acre.
Yeah.
Or 4/10 of an acre right here. This came from Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Whatever
We did too.
the other
We did
entity
the
is.
Michael property and.
We did all of it at one time for annexation and zoning.
Right. And so they've already had those concessions. If I'm not mistaken, do they have both of these or is that not
No,
good?
that's somebody else's.
No, those are both theirs. That'll be no, not Lidl.
These
No,
two out-
that won't be Lidl. That's Butler.
Yeah.
This is only legal.
The hard
That
line
right
of
there.
development you see right there is all will be owned by Lidl at one point.
Right here is already on there. They got both pieces of property. It's outlined like this.
If everything's supposed to go the way it's supposed to go, and you confirm for me as counsel for Lidl, everything you see as a hard line right there will be Lidl property and not part of the other development.
Right. The only way it'll be tied in is because of stormwater runoff.
And
probably cross access easements, because you'll have that, and it'll eventually be from that other street, I can't think of the name of it, over there where the Verizon
Yeah.
store is, and all that'll be cross access.
But the hard lines you see there are Lidl's property. Once everything, assuming all the pieces fit in the right holes and it gets to where it's supposed to go, the hard lines will be Lidl's separately owned property and not part of the rest of the development.
They can't even answer my questions about what's going to happen with the stormwater configuration and that. And for them just to say, we don't really care, we don't know what happens to you when they're presenting something like this. I mean, they go hand in hand, the way I look at it. I mean, they might say, we don't care about what happens to anybody else around there. That's not the type of neighbor I want. And I know business is business and people will tend to get what they can get. But we're talking about developing a whole street and corridor there, and you're piecemealing it, and it's going to be potentially adverse to us. And I'm repeating myself now. I'll say this one more time, and maybe I shouldn't. I am pretty sure they could have gotten this 1.5 acres for a lot less than got that 1/2 acre.
Yep.
So somebody did a good job from Butler of marketing for one and not marketing for another. I'll just say
I think it had more to do with the fact that buying up by the corner gets it more adjacent to sewer water coming off of Wall Street than coming off of. Keep in mind, Irwin is county, so you don't have the sewer and water running right up it.
And one reason they may have backed it up this far from the state right away, it says it varies down through here. The state's got different right of ways everywhere. The DOT could come 2 or 3 years from now and tell them, hey, you're gonna have
Sure,
to
that's
move this,
fine.
you're gonna have to build a turning lane or a.
But the flip side is, I don't think they, in good conscience, should come here and say somebody else is handling the stormwater development issue, and
That's my job to make sure they do.
well, you haven't done it yet.
Well, they ain't done it.
And so I request that all those things be done before this type of action be taken.
People don't like to spend
Yeah,
thousands of dollars
that's my thing.
before they get it. They
Well-
just gotta do it by the law.
You've done a
which
great job
really-
advocating for
really
this
takes it.
LIDO, and I appreciate it. But
Well, anyway, I've no offense, but I've got someplace I've got to be, so I let everybody go over the 10 minutes as announced in the agenda, but I want to make sure everybody had a chance to get a discussion and everything like that. Because keep in mind, gentlemen, keep in mind, any decision here is just a recommendation of the mayor and council. The ultimate decision has to be made by the mayor and council on Monday, so you probably need to be here for that too. It is Monday at 7. So first, let me ask then, is there a motion with regards to approving the request of Lidl U.S. Operations LLC to reduce the 30-foot distance for the setback on the property adjacent to Irwin Street from 30 to 15 feet?
I move that we do that.
All right, there's been a motion to approve the request to vary from 30 to 15 feet. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, there be a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. There being, let the record reflect there is 3 votes yay, 1 vote no. Therefore, the motion would carry that the recommendation of the Zoning Advisory Board to the Mayor and Council to be reported at the meeting on Monday night would be to recommend the granting of the 15-foot variance to reduce it from a setback of 30 to 15 feet. I would advise all parties that the action of this board is merely advisory and therefore still subject to approval by the Mayor and Council, which they can tend to go either way. That being said, I have no other items on the agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Yeah, we'll shoot that to you. No problem. Yeah.
Hang for a minute.
Yeah, we can shoot that to you. No problem.
Hmm?